Hey, greetings. Thanks for joining me. It's Fred in Alaska. What I wanted to share with you today comes from Roger. Roger was in college doing biology, and he signed up for a fishery study to where they go out into the field and so on. And in this particular study, they were going to the Nuyakuk River drainage for this study to where they catch small little fry, measure them, species, all that kind of stuff. So he was really gung-ho for it. This was in 2003. This particular incident unfortunately stopped his going into the field, the biology field and outdoors in general. So this began in 03. They ended up on the Nuyakuk River, and it was two of the field biologists, him as Roger as an assistant, and another young lady as another assistant. Students. They're about 3 days into it. They're doing their study. They're catching, they're basically the workhorse for the biologists. They're using little dip nets to catch the fry, and the biologists are measuring them and doing all the scientific work. Well, like Roger was saying, about 3 days in, roughly, because this is almost 20 years ago. It'll be 20 years this coming fishing season. But anyway, so he was doing his part. He got dropped off on the riverbank about 3 miles below the falls, and he had bear spray. They had a shotgun and whatnot in the skiff, but they drifted down further to drop the other assistant off, and their job was to dip net underneath the cut bank to catch the little fry and mark down exactly where they were taken from and get samples from a few key areas, meet up with them a little further downriver, and they'd do their thing. When he got dropped off and they were backing away, he felt a weirdness come over him. He couldn't explain it. He said it felt like 1,000 eyes were staring at him, and there was no one around. He said it was dead quiet, not even the wind was blowing, and the mosquitoes were thick. So he was basically in misery. He's in the middle of nowhere. Mosquitoes are just pestering him, and he's just not having a good time. He's already hating field work. So he's dipping in, he's doing his thing with like a little butterfly style net to catch the little small baby salmon, basically. And he was collecting from these areas. He gets to the second spot where they had asked him to take samples, and he could just look right down river and see the other guys less than 100 yards away. They're right there in vision. And as he's doing so, he hears kablunk, kablunk, kablunk at a pretty rapid cadence. There's this bloop sound, like little pebbles hitting the water, and because of the movement of the water, he can't pinpoint, if rocks are hitting it or if it's water just lapping over a rock that he can't see or along the bank. So he's a little confused by that and continues doing what he's doing. He starts back down the trail to the next position where he was going to get another sample, and as he was doing so, that sound continued, and then finally, as he was going along, one of the little rocks hit him in the chest. So he's like, okay, it is rocks, and he turns in the direction that the little pebble had come from, and he sees a dark figure in the trees. It was silhouetted. He couldn't make out anything other than it was a dark figure. I couldn't make out 2 feet, 4 feet, whatever. It was big and dark and right over there about 40 yards. So immediately he's like, oh crap, something's throwing rocks. And he, initially, so he turns and hastily starts trekking down the trail, thinking, since when do bears throw rocks? Had no reference point of the hairy man or anything like that. Just a college student, new to Alaska, came up from the States. So there was no point of reference for the guy. So Roger gets down to the others and says, hey, something was throwing rocks at me back over here in the trees. And he kind of got chuckled at, not directly like, "Oh, you're dumb, nothing throws rocks," but more like, where are these rocks coming from, kind of thing, like almost like a disbelief. He goes, "No, there was something dark in the trees. I saw the direction that the pebbles were coming from. It had been going on until one hit me. I saw the direction they were coming from." So that got the biologist's attention. So they're like, all right, they're immediately wanting to quash it and say, all right, let's hop in. We'll motor up there and we'll go take a look. They motor up there. He goes right to the spot. He goes, it's standing right over there. This dark figure was still there. Eagles are around. Keep your little dogs inside. I don't know if the camera picked that up. Anyway, so they see this darkness over there, and the biologist is like, that's just dead shrubs or something in the shadows looking like something. It's not. And he goes, no, it's something. So the biologist, being a smartass, slings the shotgun over his shoulder. He goes, when the bear runs off or tries to eat me, and just kind of makes a joke of it or whatever, hops out of the skiff and commences to beelining straight for this dark figure. Now, he said from their vantage point, where this figure just looked like a dark mass. There was no way of telling height, width, any of that. The biologist gets about half the distance and unslings the shotgun and makes sure there's a round in it in case it is a bear. He was joking around, but he wanted to make sure he wasn't putting his life in jeopardy. So he walks towards it and then stops abruptly. And when he stops abruptly, he turns around and starts walking back towards the skiff. He starts saying, "Hey, it's nothing. It's dead brush." As this guy is looking back at them, Roger and the other assistant are looking at the dark figure in the trees in disbelief that it's nothing, because it's obviously something over there. Because its darkness didn't match any of the other darkness around, even silhouetted in the tree lines and all that shit. They just weren't believing the guy. They felt he was trying to appease them and just chalk it up to nothing. Well, that wasn't the case. The other biologist was operating the boat and not really, giving any credence to what was going on. Just saying, "Come on, we got stuff to do." Not even paying attention to the guy walking back. As the other biologist is jumping down into the skiff, first he passes off the shotgun. Roger takes it, sets it down. He climbs down and says, "There's nothing to worry about." And as he says that, Roger and the other assistant, the female, see this thing, and it stands up. It stands up, and it makes like a whistling scream, he said. Now, he said it sounded like a woman half being murdered, along with a really high-pitched scream all at once. And everyone's attention went right to that direction. But this dark figure walked off into the trees. So they weren't able to make out exactly what it was. Just something big, whistle, screamed, and walked away. So the biologists are like, what kind of crap is that? They chalked it up to someone playing a prank immediately. They chalked it up. They disembarked from the bank. They went upriver a little ways, came back down. Meanwhile, everyone's searching the banks, right? Looking. And Roger said they went back and forth on the river quite a few times. Ran out about a half a 5-gallon tank of gas with the 40-horse motor. And looking for any sign of whatever in the hell or whoever in the hell was playing this prank. Things calm down. They go back to where they were staying, which was the very first salmon counting tower station on the Nuyakuk, which was further downriver, almost damn near 30 miles from where they were at this point. So they get back there. The very next day, Roger is up early along with everyone else because they have assignments they have to complete and things they have to do, and they're on a schedule. They're only allotted, a certain amount of time to get certain things done. So he was up early, and he was down at the river's edge washing the cooking attire from the morning. He was halfway through what he was doing, and out of nowhere, kablunk, kablunk, the same cadence, kablunk, kablunk of rocks. Little rocks being thrown. So immediately his eyes are up and he's looking across to the other side of the river. Sure enough, there's that same dark figure, hunched down again, just inside the trees, silhouetted, just beautifully, like blended in. But he recognized the darkness difference. So immediately he stops what he's doing. He throws the dishes into this little tote that he was using and rushes back inside. Goes inside, gets their attention, says, hey, it's back. It's across the river. It was throwing rocks again. Immediately they're just like, oh geez, these pranksters, right? The older guys, the biologist, paid no attention to it. They're like, let them think, just ignore them, and they'll realize they're not getting their fun out of it. They'll go away. Roger leaves it alone. However, the other assistant, the female, was very unnerved, very uncomfortable. She goes, can you show it to me just so I could see what you're talking about? And they go outside, and he points across the river to that. The dark shape was still there, just like the day before, further upriver. And he goes, it's right there. It was throwing rocks. It did the same thing yesterday before all that other stuff went down. So they're confiding within each other about the creeps they had, and they're wondering what it is. It's not a person. That darkness is too big. So that it's not moving. It's not. No whistles. Not a sound was coming from that direction. But periodically, when they were looking at each other, talking to each other, blink, blink, a couple rocks would hit. But when their attention was drawn back that way, there was no movement. So, not enjoying what was going on whatsoever, they decide, we'll just go back inside. It'll go away, whatever. Next day comes, because they spent their day, they did their thing, they got caught up in other stuff throughout the day, and all that was just a non-memory. It was whatever. They get back down to their base camp. Long trying day, mosquito bites, the whole bit. Started raining on them. Just a miserable day altogether. And they get everything unloaded. The biologists are doing their paperwork and stuff inside the shack. Now, when he goes back out to finish the dishes he had started that morning, it dawned on him, it brought back, because he didn't complete all the dishes, and that was his task, and they were getting ready to cook dinner. So he had to finish up what he had started. So he's back at the riverbank. That dark shadow isn't there. He's feeling more comfortable. He's cleaning away, hurrying up, because everyone's hungry, right? Gets done, and as he's going back up the little bit of the cut bank, about 3 or 4 foot high, he gets pelted in the back by a little rock, and immediately whips around and looks, and that shadow is back where it was in the morning, right where it was. And he said it had to have been a good 70 yards distance, and for that small of a rock to make it that distance, and with the force it pelted him in the back, it was enough to really get his attention. So he scurries on inside and asks the biologist, hey, do you mind if I take the shotgun out with one of the bear rounds, one of the cracker rounds, and shoot it in the direction and maybe scare whoever's playing this prank off? They said, yeah, why not? It won't hurt. Just don't shoot no more than twice, because we have limited, supplies or whatever. Now, these cracker rounds, they fire out and then they crackle, right? So he decides, all right, I'm going to aim above it and shoot up, and maybe the crackling noise will, cause it to whatever. So he shoots once. The first one was kind of a half dud. It kind of just half did its thing. So he racked another one in, did it again, and this one operated properly. Just a bunch of crackling, clack, 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 after a little bit of a distance, as it ignited, as it flew, and then they start crackling. So that crackled. All of a sudden, where this dark figure was, the area erupted. Grunts, squealing sound, all mixed in with this high-pitched whistly kind of sound. It was all, he said, it was like a goulash of just chaos of sounds, from real low range to real high range, but all intermixed together. And this figure moved away from him, back off into the trees. Now, it's land of the midnight sun. It's not like it's dark out by any means, but once it gets on into the evening, the shadows get longer, of course, but the canopy makes everything underneath the canopy of the trees basically almost pitch black. So everyone inside hears that commotion and they come out and they're like, what's going on? What was it? What is it? He goes, I don't know. It went that way. It went away. So now the biologists are severely like, whoa, let's, that is not a person. So in their wisdom, they decide, okay, they'll leave the girl there to do whatever along with the other biologist, and the one biologist is going to take Roger with him and go across and investigate what the hell was going on. They hop in the skiff, they motor across, and they hike back in from the direction he saw the movement. They're looking as they go, and he said there was alders and a couple of the black spruce that were about 10 inches in diameter looked like they were just snapped almost at the base, like something real big just pushed through and it snapped. So they follow this trail a little ways, and they didn't get very far before they saw a bunch of the brush back in there was broken, snapped in a circumference of about a 30-foot circle. It looked like something just went through and broke everything off right around 6 foot high. And he said it was the damnedest thing. The biologist was like, we need to go. I don't know what the hell this is. The one track they did see, the biologist chalked it up to a double bear print. And so they get back, they skiff back across, and that's basically what they left it at, is a double bear print track and a weird sounding bear. Roger didn't feel that way, and that was his last trip into the field. After that day, they had 2 or 3 more days there, and everything was eerily quiet. Everyone felt watched the whole time. It was unnerving. They didn't see anything or hear anything after that point, but it was very a standoffish, tension in the air. Everyone could feel it. Roger, thanks for sharing that. I know it was really hard for him to get it out. For a lot of people, it's hard to get over the initial, here's what happened. And so we talked a few times about it, and it got easier for him, thankfully. And again, thanks, Roger. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining me. And we'll catch you on the next one.